Hello there guys, how's it going? My name is Hocus Pocus and welcome to today's video. This one is going to be an enchantment guide specifically focusing around swords and the enchantments that are available to be attributed to them. So we'll run through each of the 7 enchantments that affect swords in the game, and this video will begin with Fire Aspect. So without further ado, let's hop right into that first enchantment and see how each of these enchantments affects the sword and the damage output that it can deal. Okay guys, so as I said, Fire Aspect is the first enchantment that we're looking at today, and that comes in 2 levels, Fire Aspect 1 and Fire Aspect 2. The Fire Aspect enchantment adds 4 seconds of burn damage to an enemy based on the level, so Fire Aspect 1 adds 4 levels, and Fire Aspect 2 adds 4 seconds on top of that. So in total that's 8 seconds, and I realized I said 4 levels instead of 4 seconds for the first one, but I did mean 4 seconds. So 4 seconds for Fire Aspect 1, 8 seconds for Fire Aspect 2. However, the very first swing of the sword does replace the first second of fire damage, so for this reason, Fire Aspect 1 will do 3 half hearts of damage, and Fire Aspect 2 will do 7 half hearts of damage. So I'll just take another swipe at a separate entity with the Fire Aspect 2 sword here, just to give a demonstration. And it seems as though the Fire Aspect 1 sword can also kill in one hit if left alone. But as you can see, the enemy is set on fire, and remains that way for a total of 8 seconds when using Fire Aspect 2. Looting is next on the list, and looting comes in 3 separate enchantment ratings. So we've got looting 1, looting 2, and looting 3. And looting does many things, the first of which being that it will increase the quantity of common drops by +1 per level, or the chance of the quantity increasing. So for example, with the creeper here, we've got gunpowder as the common loot drop. So using the looting 3 sword, we can kill this guy. And let's take a look at how much he dropped. So you can see right there he dropped 5 gunpowder. So let me give you a quick example. If creepers always drop 1 gunpowder, then looting 3 will give them the chance to drop 4, because there's 3 extra levels there, so there is a chance for the creeper to drop 3 extra pieces of gunpowder. The looting enchantment will also give you a second chance for uncommon drops to drop from an enemy when killed if the first attempt to drop the item fails, and of course once again this chance is increased throughout the level, so looting 1 has the lowest chance, whereas looting 3 has the highest chance. Looting will also increase the chance by 1 percentage point per level of a rare drop occurring, so for example a Wither Skeleton Skull. So the chance at looting 1 is 3.5%, the chance at looting 2 is 4.5%, and the chance at looting 3 is a whopping 5.5%. And finally, the looting enchantment will also increase, again by 1 percentage point per level, the chance of equipment drops from mobs. So this includes things such as armor and weapons that are being held by a mob in the game. So looting 1 will give you a 9.5% chance, looting 2 a 10.5% chance, and looting 3 a massive 11.5% chance. Next on the list is Sharpness, and Sharpness is a damage addition enchantment, so it will increase the damage of the sword and comes in 5 different levels, Sharpness 1 through Sharpness 5. So Sharpness 1 will add an extra 1 point of damage to the sword, and every additional level from that point onwards will only add half a point. So Sharpness 1 will do half heart of damage extra, Sharpness 2 will do 1.5 half hearts of damage extra, Sharpness 3 will do 2 half hearts of damage extra. Sharpness 3 will do, Sharpness 4 will do 2.5 half hearts of damage extra. And finally, Sharpness 5 will do 3 half hearts of damage extra. Now in the Bedrock edition of the game, things are slightly different. So Sharpness 1 will do 1.25 half hearts of extra damage, whereas Sharpness 5 will do 6.25 half hearts of extra damage. So in Bedrock edition, Sharpness is much more effective and scales much more quickly than it does in the Java version of the game. And to fend off the undead mobs in the game, Smite is the enchantment for you. So Smite once again comes in 5 separate levels. Each level of Smite does an additional 2.5 extra damage to undead mobs, as I say, and 2.5 damage correlates to 1.25 hearts of damage. So with the Smite 1 sword, this zombie will go down in 3 hits and we'll respawn him. With the Smite 5 sword, he'll go down in 2 hits. So you can see that the Smite enchantment does in fact do extra damage to undead mobs, and as I say, each level does an extra 2.5 damage, which correlates to 1.25 hearts of damage in-game. Now, if it's spiders that you're more worried about, then Bane of Arthropods will be the enchantment for you. So Bane of Arthropods again comes in 5 separate levels, and in terms of damage works exactly the same way as Smite does, except it only affects arthropod mob types, which includes spiders. So as I say, if you're a bit worried about these guys, Bane of Arthropods is for you. So each level adds an extra 2.5 damage, which correlates to 1.25 hearts of damage. However, the difference between this enchantment and Smite is that it also has a chance to inflict slowness 4 on arthropod enemy types. Now with the level 1 enchantment, this is between 1 and 1.5 seconds of the slowness 4 debuff, whereas with the Arthropods 5 enchantment, it can go all the way up to 3.5 seconds. So that is the only difference between Bane of Arthropods and Smite, except for, of course, the fact that Smite is effective against zombies and undead types, whereas Bane of Arthropods is effective against arthropod enemy types in the game, the most common one being the spider. And one thing that I should mention about Sharpness, Smite, and Bane of Arthropods is that they are mutually exclusive. So if you have Sharpness on a sword, you cannot have Smite or Bane of Arthropods. If you have Smite on a sword, you cannot have Sharpness or Bane of Arthropods. And if you finally have Bane of Arthropods on a sword, you cannot also enchant it with Smite and Sharpness. Alright, so next on the list is an enchantment that will be good for all of you guys who struggle against creepers. This enchantment, Knockback, has 2 levels and will allow you to increase the distance between yourself and a mob when hitting them with the sword. So if we bring a creeper into play here, Knockback 1 pushes the creeper back, I don't know, maybe 3 blocks or so, whereas Knockback 2 can push the creeper back a greater distance, probably around 5 or 6 blocks there. And this also does combine with the sprint, so if you sprint and use Knockback, it will in fact push the mob back further than if not sprinting. So there you go, it does create that nice gap, and of course prevents creepers from exploding in your face, because they only begin their explosion animation when within range of the player. Now with the Knockback 2 enchantment, you can force mobs back between 7 and 8 blocks at maximum, I believe, so you can create some good distance between yourself and those green exploding guys. And the final enchantment that we're going to be looking at today is Sweeping Edge, one of the newer enchantments in the game. So we've got 3 levels of Sweeping Edge, each of them increasing the damage dealt to mobs in the periphery of a sweep attack. So with Sweeping Edge 1, it will deal 50% of the sword's total damage to the mobs in the periphery of a sweep attack. Sweeping Edge 2 will deal 67% damage of the sword. And finally, Sweeping Edge 3 will deal 75% of the sword's total damage to enemies in the periphery of a sweep attack. Now, let's try and give this a quick demonstration so you guys can see what I mean by a sweep attack. If you've got a few enemies and you hit one of them, it also damages the guys that are beside him. So you can see that, it's not only the zombie that I'm targeting that's taking damage, it's also the guys that are in the periphery of the attack. So a sweep attack can only be performed when fully charged, so you can see the charge meter under my crosshair there. And once fully charged, if you hit an enemy that has enemies close by, you'll also deal some damage to the peripheral enemy. So as I say, 50% at Sweeping Edge 1, 67 at Sweeping Edge 2, and a good, nice chunk of the sword's damage, 75% at Sweeping Edge 3. Okay then guys, that is going to be the end of this video. And I do hope that you enjoyed it and found it useful, and hopefully that this information can allow you to decide on which enchantments are going to be the right ones for you. So there is a great range to choose from. And let me quickly remind you guys that Sharpness, Smite, and Bane of Arthropods are mutually exclusive, which means that they cannot be added to a sword at the same time without the use of commands, which is unfortunate, but that's the way the game works. So just keep that in mind when creating your sword of choice. Alright guys, this has been Hocus Pocus. Make sure to subscribe if you're new or enjoyed and found this useful video interesting today. That didn't make much sense, but I'm out of here. Take care, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.